castles, you go 1, 2, over 1. Kind of like the knight. But instead, you're doing it with the king and the rook. So you move the king, 1, from E to F. 2, from F to G. So from here, it goes 1, 2. And then, on the opposite side of the king, 1 square to the opposite side of the king, you move the rook. And now, you have castle. Now, I want you to see this convenience of this structure. The pawns are protecting, well, in this case, put this back originally where it was, the pawns are protecting the king, then other pieces around this area will be protecting the king, and the rook is protecting the king. So this is like a little fortress for your king to keep it safe from getting checkmated. So that's why that's important. Now, here's another way you can't castle. When castling leads to your check. In other words, your castle line is being distracted. So what happens if your castle line, how does your castle line being distracted? Well, I'll show you. If your castle line is distracted, that means if you were to castle 1, 2, over 1, your king would be in check. Like by the bishop over here, which would make it an illegal move, which is something you can't do in a tournament, or else you get disqualified. So knowing that, how would you make yourself eligible to not have your castle line destroyed so you could castle? Well, you could block the attacking piece with anything, another piece, or you could take the piece that's doing that to you, or destroying your castle line. For example, the knight takes bishop. Now, if you wanted to, the next turn, after he does whatever, I don't know, over here, now, if you want to, you can castle. This is queenside castling, this is kingside castling. So, knowing that, now if you want to even go this way, it's the same thing, 1, 2, and on the opposite side, over 1. So, I'll show you one more time how to castle. 1, 2, over 1. And this is over here. You go 1, 2, and the queen side, over 1. That's how you castle, and that's how one of the most effective ways to protect your king from checkmate. In recommendation. So, now that you know, and I've gone over this for like almost 2 hours now, all the rules on how to play chess, and if you've gone over this video at least a dozen times and you know how to play, exactly how to play, I can show you a short game. That's like 4 moves. Now, before you ever play a game, especially in a tournament, this is part 4, by the way, part 4. There's a few rules you should know so that you don't get a nomenclature, so that you're not only acting appropriate, but you don't get disqualified. If you go too far and you go too OD, you might get disqualified, and that's the worst feeling. So, first thing you gotta understand about chess tournaments, especially street chess, do not use any other help. That's the first rule from anyone, because if you use a chess engine, which is like a chess computer, to cheat, but you could lose your whole FIDE license, which actually really sucks. And almost happened to a famous chess player recently called Hans Niemann. He's an American grandmaster, and he basically, they almost caught, or they say that he like cheated using a chess engine on chess.com. He almost got banned from the website, so don't cheat. Second thing you gotta understand is that in a tournament setting, it's always touch move. And what that means is if you touch a piece like this, you put your hand on it, you have to move it in some way, shape, or form. So think before you move, literally. So, let's say I touch this piece. I might not want to move it, but now I have to because I touched it. So now in street chess, you usually want to clarify touch move, or in this case, clock move, which is where you move the chess clock before you play. How chess clocks work is that you have it set on one side of the and you just keep hitting it after you make your move. Now clock move is different than touch move. Clock move, the move hasn't been made until you touch the clock. Then the move has been made. So you can move back if you make a mistake or something before you actually finalize your move. And then finally, the other nomenclature is that unless you're playing street chess, you don't say a word, because the thing is, in tournaments, it's illegal to speak to your opponent unless it's for tournament reasons, like, oh, we got to get up and use the bathroom, which usually doesn't happen, but I've seen it happen before. Or, oh, you're trying to agree to a draw. Now, here's the thing. If you resign, that means you give up the game. That's one reason that you could talk in a chess game. Two, you got to use the bathroom or something like that. That's normal. Or three, the final reason you could talk in a chess game is if you offer what's called offering a draw. So remember we talked about stalemate before and how that's a draw? Well, let's say you think that for tournament reasons, point scores, whatever you want to call it, brackets, that this game is probably going to end in a draw, or you think you could tempt your opponent to get a draw when you're in a little bit of a losing position, but he doesn't see it, and you want to get that draw instead of a loss. Then you could tell your opponent, adjourn for a draw, and if he says yes, then the game ends in a draw. If he doesn't say yes, you got to keep playing, or you resign yourself, or you just lose yourself. But knowing that, that's how that works. Now, let's go over a quick game. I think this one's only like 4 moves. We'll go over it anyways. Just to give you an example of how the chess world runs. So, e4, e5, bishop, c4, knight, c6, queen, f3, and then d6. Now watch this. Once queen goes, this is an example game just so you can learn. Simple example game. Once the queen goes f7, that's checkmate and that's game. Now remember, queen's attacking the king. King can't move anywhere, can't take the king, and if he wants to take the queen, he can't because it's backed up by the bishop. So this would be checkmate, right over here. Simplest, one of the simpler checkmates in chess. So, to go over the curriculum I've gone over in this 4-part video, still my practice, I've gone over how the chessboard is dynamically set up, how the chessboard dynamically is used in dimensional purposes, how the chessboard is broken down, and how to read chess notation. I've also talked about ranks and files over the chessboard, all in part 1. Part 2, I talked about how the chess pieces move, and as well as some simple complications of the game. In the 3rd part, we went over secret rules like castling, en passant, stalemate, checkmate, pawn promotion. Remember, that's when you get to the other side, and that pawn turns into a queen. The technicalities of chess, as well as secret moves. Then finally, in part 4, we went over a simple game of chess. It was like 5, 6 moves, I think. Then we went over how was it? Oh, yeah. Then we went over how the game is played on a high level and on a street level and on a tournament level. And then finally, we talked about what we're talking about now, which is an overall summary and synopsis. So without further ado, that, in simple instruction, is how to play chess. Thank you. And the rules to play chess. Thank you very much.